Okay, so we have gone through the explanation of how Lord Kapila Dev came into the world again as an incarnation, and now Kapila Dev's mission is essentially to explain this whole philosophy of Samkhya Yoga, which is essentially right getting back to the base elements which make up this material world and how all of these materials could be used back in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And at the end of the day, right, everything is appearing from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, so we have discussed all of this. Now let's continue with the conversation between Devahuti and Kardama Muni. Right? So Kardama Muni then rewarded her with advanced consciousness of the Lord. And Devahuti, she requested for children and also a house. Right? So after serving Kardama Muni for many years, right, she became very weak. And therefore, what Kardama Muni said was that, yes, you have been assisting me in my devotion. Now, what I'll do is I will provide you with all the youth once again. I'll provide you with all the youth so that you won't look emaciated, right? You will not look weak anymore. And I will produce an aerial palace, right, which can travel at our will, right? And he was also able to produce more than 1,000 girls who would dress up his wife and then bring her around a voyage of the universe. Okay, so along the way, what happened is the 9 daughters are born, and then she later regretted that she did not focus on gaining his association, which could award the liberation. So essentially, she was serving him. But more important than serving was also to hear Hari Katha from Kardama Muni. Right? So then what Kardama Muni said was that, don't worry, once I leave after Kapila Muni is born, Kapila Muni, the Kapila Dev will essentially be the one who will give you this Gyan of Sankhya Yoga. Okay? And our 9 daughters will be married off to the sages. So there you can see Kapila Dev. So this is the philosophy, essentially the 24 elements, okay, or the vision of Sankhya is that, there are these 24 elements which will make up the entire universe. It starts with the 5 working senses, the 5 knowledge acquiring senses, the 5 sense objects, the 5 gross elements, the 3 subtle elements, and finally the consciousness. Okay, all of these are from the Supreme Lord, and essentially we need to serve the Supreme Lord in devotional service. Okay, in our past classes we have actually learned that Brahmaji is the secondary creator. So what were the first few elements which Brahmaji created? Does anyone remember? Anyone remembers what were the first few elements which
anger.
Exactly. Anger. Very good. Anger. You'll be thinking, why anger? Right? Because anyone? Anuj, Prabhu, you like to try? Why anger? Or anyone else? Would you like to try? Why anger?
I think because that's our nature in us, has material body.
Okay, that's our nature, which was given to us by Brahmaji. But why our nature? Right? It's not just our nature, but it was given to us by Brahmaji. But why? Okay, let's park that question one side. Now let's look at what other elements. Renuka, would you like to try? Anger is one.
From anger will come greed.
Wonderful.
And then, anger will lead to greed, frustration, and all that.
Okay.
Then he also created that is the end of everything. After that, there's nothing.
Okay, wonderful.
And then it was the material body,
Wonderful.
the nature of the material body.
Okay.
And the last one was material body.
Together
Uh,
with the material body is the spirit soul. For us to
yeah,
forget that we are actually a
forgetfulness of
spirit.
the spirit soul.
Wonderful. And being too attached to the material and the material body. All right. So these were the 5 elements, or the 5 subtle elements which were produced by Brahmaji first. All right. Number 1, anger. Right. Number 2, us forgetting that we are a spirit soul. Number 3, us being, so attached to the material. Number 4, that death is going to be the end of everything. Right. And number 5, greed. These were the 5 elements introduced by Brahmaji first. So now, look at these 5 elements. Why? The question, once again, which I had parked earlier on, is why did Brahmaji introduce these 5 elements first?
That's the design of the material world, actually. So he was doing his duty to bind the soul here in the material life with all these qualities,
Okay,
so that the soul can realize ultimately, what's his purpose and why is he doing what is he, what he's doing.
Exactly, because we wanted to enjoy independently from the Lord. Because we wanted to enjoy independently from the Lord, and therefore this subtle consciousness or these 5 elements will allow us to think that we are the enjoyers. We are totally separate from the spiritual being. We are totally aloof, all right, from the supreme whole, right? And once we have got enough knocks, then we will realize that actually these 5 subtle creations are just all out to keep on binding us into this material world. All right. In other words, these 3 modes of material nature are just binding us into this material world. You see how all of this is coming so nicely as we progress in our study of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. So if you cannot remember anything from today's class, just remember these 5 elements were the first elements of 5 subtle things, were the first things which were introduced by Brahmaji because we wanted it. We wanted it. Okay. So now the appearance of Lord Kapila, remembering the words of Vishnu, whom Kardama Muni had the divine audience of. Kardama replied back to Devahuti, "Don't be disappointed. The infallible Lord will shortly enter your womb as your son. He will cut the knot of attachment in your heart by teaching the knowledge of Brahman." Okay. And therefore, with full faith in the words of her husband, Devahuti worshipped the Lord with great respect, who then entered into the womb of Devahuti through Kardama. And Brahma appeared before the couple and addressed them. He said, "You accepted my instructions." Brahmaji is saying, "You accepted my instruction without duplicity, all right, and with all respect, and thus you have properly worshipped and honored me. Your 9 daughters are very chaste and will increase this creation by their own descendants. Offer them to the foremost of sages with due regard to the girls' temperaments and likings." All right, so it's important that each of these 9 daughters had a different temperament, had a different nature. So therefore, Kardama Muni responsibility was to ensure that whoever he was wanting each of them to marry had a nature which will somehow be able to work very nicely with his daughter's nature. All right. And then your son will be foremost amongst the perfected beings. right? And he's approved by all the acharyas of Sankhya philosophy, and he will be known as Kapila, and he will increase your fame. Okay. So you see how blessed Kardama Muni is, how blessed Devahuti is. Firstly, Kardama had the audience of Vishnu, and then Brahmaji is again appearing, and finally the Lord appears as Kapila Dev. All right. So this was his humility, understanding that the Lord had descended. Kardama approached him in a secluded place and offered him prayers. So Kardama Muni is now offering prayers to his newly born child. All right. Demigods become pleased after a long time, right? So, a lot of citizens in this earth, they worship the demigods, okay? And when the demigods are pleased, they will provide whatever which, the devotee is asking for. It takes many, many births for a mature yogi to finally see you, O Supreme Lord. But the same Lord is now appeared in my home to support me, all right, and not considering the negligence of the ordinary householders like us. So Kardama Muni is so humble. He says, I've done 101 crazy things, which he has not. But he's saying that, regular householders like us, you are blessing us by appearing as our child. Now that you have appeared, I have become free of debt. So please give me the permission to renounce this world. Okay, so I've become free of debt. Who are we debted to? Anyone remembers? Who are we debted to?
To everyone, Prabhuji, to our parents, to our guru, to the demigods, ultimately, to God. But yeah, we are indebted to everything, for the air we breathe, for the water we drink, for the sunlight, for everything we are indebted, actually.
Exactly, to our ancestors also, right? If not for them, we will not be here. So we are indebted to all of them, and now is the month of Sharad. All right. So a lot of people feel that, now that we have, become devotees, we are no longer indebted to anyone. That's wrong. In the case of Kardama Muni, he can say that because he is totally renounced, number one. And, he's a pure devotee of the Lord, and the Lord has appeared in his house, right? And therefore he's he's debt-free. The fact that the Lord appeared in his house, the fact that he's a pure devotee, all right, tells you that he's debt-free. He has got no more debts to, right? Everything is paid off. But we are not there. All right, so we are still debtors to our ancestors, and therefore this month, we are supposed to do the Sharad. Essentially, if, we need to worship Lord Narayan, and whatever prasad is there from Narayan, we offer this to our ancestors in the hope that they will become liberated. Okay, so this 2 weeks is very, very important, that we do not neglect our responsibilities. Okay, so there's like a titi, right? For each day of these 2 weeks, we worship an ancestor. I do not know what is normally our titi day. So the Lord is very kind. If we do not know what's the date which we should be doing the Shraddh, the last day, which is 2nd of October, all right, is a one size fit all. Anyone can actually worship on that day. So if you are very, very busy, Wednesday, 2nd of October is the day. Before 12 o'clock, we need to, do an offering to Lord Narayan, and then that is then offered to our ancestor. Okay, so don't forget. Okay, then once Kapila Muni is born, Kapila Dev is born, Kardama Muni then leaves home. Hearing the words of Kardama, Lord Kapila replied, okay, I've appeared in the world to explain the principles of self-realization for those desiring freedom from material desires. The path was lost in time. I've come to revive this knowledge of Sankhya. And I will also describe this knowledge to my mother so that she will also attain perfection and be freed from fear. Okay. So, right, so this was her desire, that I also want this devotional knowledge, this spiritual knowledge. I want this. And therefore, Kardama Muni told her that, your son will teach you all of this in great detail. And then in the next few chapters, you will learn how Kapila Dev is explaining all about devotional service to his mother. Okay. And surrendering all your activities to me. Okay. So Kapila Dev, the son, is telling the father, surrender all your activities to me, go as you desire and worship me for eternal life. And therefore Kardama Muni circumambulated the Lord, went around the Lord with a pacified mind that, now that everything is settled, okay, my wife is settled, my girls are settled, and therefore he can now leave for the forest. After Kardama Muni left, Lord Kapila stayed at Bindu Sarovar to please his mother Devahuti. Okay, so straightforward. Huh? Now, Lord Kapila describes Adhyatmika Yoga. Adhyatmika Yoga essentially is yoga concerning the soul, all right, which is essentially how do you connect my individual soul with the supreme whole. That is Adhyatmika Yoga. Okay. Right? So it's about connecting the spirit soul to the supreme whole. So Lord Kapila described to his mother the path followed by the devotees. He said, I consider the yoga system concerning the soul, or Adhyatmika Yoga, as the most beneficial. Why? Because it causes detachment from material happiness and distress. Right? So Brahmaji produced, right, anger and then greed. What is greed? Material, hankering for the material, hankering for material happiness. So now what Kapila Dev is teaching is essentially this was asked or produced by Brahmaji, and how do you go about eradicating this? Right? And Kapila Dev is explaining the mind is the pivot. Right? Whenever you see the word the mind, immediately remember the chariot analogy, all right, which we have learned. If the mind is attached to material modes, it causes bondage. And if it's attached to the Supreme Lord, it causes liberation. When the mind is cleansed of all the impurities like lust and greed, what happens is one transcends these material dualities of happiness and sadness. Okay? Because once you are able to control the mind, once the soul is able to tell the mind that, I'm separate from you. The mind is just a subtle part of the body. It is not the body. All right? It is not the spirit soul. And therefore, the spirit soul should be so strong to tell the mind that, you just control yourself. You just humble yourself down. You just don't drive me nuts. And when the mind is cleansed of all these impurities like lust and greed, we can be equipoised. Even in a difficulty or in happiness, the soul is just so contented, right? The mind will reach this state by practicing bhakti. Right? But it's important for us to remember that for us to reach that stage of pure devotional service, we also need knowledge, all right, of how to approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That knowledge is jnana. And vairagya is essentially how do I detach myself from the material. Then one sees everything in the right perspective. Okay. So it is a combination of me telling my mind that I'm a spirit soul. I'm not the mind. Whatever the mind is telling me to do, I need to have that intelligence to tell the mind that, no, I do not have to listen to you, number one. Number two, for this intelligence to bring about a major shift in me, I need to understand spiritual consciousness. All right. And for that, I need the right knowledge or the jnana. With this right knowledge, with me engaging in devotional service, what is going to happen is I will slowly become more and more detached from the material. Okay? And once one becomes indifferent to material existence, and the material influence will definitely act less powerfully on him. Okay, I take a pause here to see if anyone have any reflections, anything to add. Let's see who is in this class today. Anything to add? Krishan Prabhu? Ravinder
Nothing for
Prabhu?
now.
Okay, Ravinder Prabhu, anything to add? I like your realizations.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
I find that what is important is that we can still try to do devotional service. The mind comes in, comes out, comes in, comes out throughout our 24 hours each day. What I'm seeing here is a potential hierarchical elimination of desires and greed towards pure devotional service. So I'm trying to make sense of pure devotional service versus some attempts at devotional service, bearing in mind the mind is very strong. And it takes time, maybe through constant positive association with devotees, keeping touch with scriptures to keep our mind in control towards a kind of pathway towards pure devotional service. But I find it is very hard, but at least we try to make attempts. And then I think previous classes you brought up James Clear. Each incremental step that we take, it's towards a pathway towards getting a success rate over time, a larger percentage of improvement over time. So I'm going by that. I do believe it's very hard. It looks like a hierarchical steps that's being produced in this slide, and by Kapila Dev's intention for us to be reaching a state where we practice bhakti. You mentioned Vairaga. It is very important that we aim for that. But in this day and age, with all our minds filled with daily chores and things like that, and it is good that we start incrementally, and hopefully over time we reach a state of near pure devotional service.
Okay, very nice. Very nice. Anuj Prabhu, right? You have very seriously embarked on, this process of chanting the Maha Mantra, and I know that you are deliberately spending 15 minutes, all right, the first 15 minutes in visualizing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, hearing the Maha Mantra very, very intentionally. So do you see your mind going to different places? And if it does, how do you take this?
No, of course, the mind, does go, Prabhuji. Of course, it will go. Because as you said, we are at the elementary stage, at the beginning stage. So we are only attempting to control the mind. So as Lord Krishna told in Gita that the mind is strong. It is very strong, yes. But it can be controlled through detachment and through practice. So we are just practicing, Prabhuji. I'm just practicing. So to control and to bring back the mind again to Krishna and to Krishna's feet. So that is what I'm trying to do every time in my chanting. But
Very
yes,
nice.
the mind does go, but it's our job to bring it back. That's all.
Okay, very nice. So what are you doing essentially is you are fortifying the muscle, right? You're fortifying the mind muscle, right? To every time it goes away, you bring it back. You bring it back, and then it will reach a stage where essentially, the mind also gets tired and, it starts listening to you, right? So that's like, building the muscle of the mind.
But it's an everyday thing, Prabhuji. It's not
Of
that
course.
it's an everyday thing. For years together, we have to do this.
Exactly. Yeah. So with that humility, there is hope. There is hope. Rome wasn't built in a day. All right. So now Lord Kapila continued. Perfection in self-realization cannot be attained unless one engages in bhakti. For that is the only auspicious path. Okay. Krishna, yesterday I was giving this class in Ceylon Road Temple. Again and again, Krishna is saying, again and again, Arjuna is asking, yeah, but which is bigger? Which is greater? Again and again, Krishna is explaining to him, bhakti is the greatest. Everything else is fine. It will just take you extra time before you come to me. Which is greater? Worshipping the divine form of the Lord as Bhagavan, or worshipping the Brahman effulgence? Krishna says, no, the divine form of the Lord, right? As Bhagavan, worshipping me as a person is the greatest. If you want to be worshipping the Brahman effulgence, great, no problem. It just takes a lot time, and it's a very, very difficult process. Krishna explains so nicely in the Bhagavad Gita, and yet, sometimes we don't get it. So coming back to what Ravindra Prabhu has explained, material association is the greatest entanglement. But we are living in this material world. Okay. So we have no choice, right? We have a choice, right? We can keep the material association at check. Don't go too much into it, right? We have no choice. We have to be with our colleagues, our bosses, our students, in class, if you're a teacher. All of that is required. But always tell yourself that, yes, I will not go too deep into this. But association of sadhus will open the door of liberation. Right? Krishna Katha is the association. In the association of sadhus is very pleasing and very, very satisfying to the ear. And what does it do? It bestows ruchi. All right. Ruchi means that taste. All right. Asakti. Right. Asakti means attachment to the Lord. Bhava. Right. Bhava means that love, that intense love. And prema is pure love for Krishna. Right? So if you hear Hari Katha in the association of devotees who have seen the truth, in the association of sadhus, then you will realize that, wow, it brings about a major shift in my mindset, in my heart set. Okay. So we have learned, right? This whole process, this 9-step process towards pure love of Godhead. Right? So what does it start with? Okay, I don't want Anuj and Ravindra Prabhu to answer. Any of you, what does this 9-step process start with? This gradual development of love of Godhead. Okay, any devotee who is interested in Krishna consciousness, it starts with what? First and foremost, you need this before it can start.
Can I answer, Prabhuji?
No. I told you, not you. Anyone else, please? Anyone who has not spoken?
You need to be aware. You need to have association. You need to have bhav.
No. Association all comes later. What is the first step?
Hearing.
Shravanam.
Yes, Shravanam, yes. Okay. Those are the 9 processes of devotional service. Any of these 9 can be used, but right now I'm talking about the steps to intensify our Krishna consciousness. The steps. Remember that plant which we spoke about? It starts with, you first and foremost need that faith, that shraddha. Hey, please go back and read your notes. No, shraddha, that faith is important. Without the faith, it cannot start. Okay? That faith, where can this faith come from? These are very, very important principles. The fact that you all are in this class today, the fact that all of us came together in Lakshmi Narayan temple for these classes tells you that you have faith in the Lord. You have faith in devotional service. Where did this faith come from? Krishan Prabhu.
Through Lord's desire or association. Again, I'll put association.
Through the Lord's costless mercy. Okay, this faith came from the Lord's costless mercy. Actually, it is from a devotee's costless mercy, which gives that sukriti to us. All right, because this process is spiritual, and therefore that spiritual seed must have been put in our heart. It could be in this lifetime or could be in the previous lifetimes. Okay, because of the association with a sadhu, that faith was born. Okay, so this is all very, very important, right? For those of you who are serious about spiritual life, the fact that you are here in this class, burning away your 1.5 hours, you could have done 101 other more important things, but you decided to be in this class. Remember, it starts with faith, and that faith can only be provided with costless mercy of a sadhu in our previous life or in our current life. Okay. Or
one more thing, Prabhuji, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, you can finish, Prabhuji, then I'll add.
No, you carry on.
Faith, it comes from costless mercy and association with sadhus. Also, the important factor is also our own realization, our own realization that that what we have heard and what we have associated, it rings a bell, like within us, and we are also firm that yes, like what we have heard and what we have seen is what we accept. Only if we accept, then the faith comes. If we don't accept, then until that time we are not like we have not come to that Shraddha level. Only when we start to accept and accept what we have heard and the association, only then we start to believe and we start to like put our faith into it, and then the faith starts. No, Prabhuji?
Well, I have a separate thinking around this, Prabhu. I feel that on my own accord, I could not have even got about this realization. It is because of the costless mercy of someone on me that brought about a mindset shift in me.
Yeah, correct. That's the starting point.
Yes. Then, So it starts with this. And then step number 2 is the association with devotees. That faith must already be there first. And then when you associate with more devotees, then this fire will become bigger and bigger. All right. And then you start engaging in the performance of devotional service. That's the third process, which is bhajana kriya. Waking up in the morning, doing mangalarti, chanting your rounds, reading, getting into kirtan, etc. That's the third stage. When you are doing this more and more and more, then what you will realize is, okay, because of the costless mercy of a sadhu, that faith was built. That faith became a bigger and bigger flame because I was associating more and more with like-minded devotees. And these like-minded devotees got me to engage in devotional service. Right? I was beginning to do more and more devotional service, and I was beginning to essentially become more and more enthused in the worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and reduce my own ego. This association of the devotees, my clear intention, my realization, reflection, slowly and slowly, while I'm doing this devotional service, what is it doing? That lifetimes of dirt around my heart, around my soul, which was covering the soul from realizing its true nature, all of that dirt becomes removed. The Lord as Paramatma in our heart becomes like a washing machine to remove all of that dirt. And therefore, this dearth is called the anarthas. All right. And this process, the fourth process, is anartha nivriti. All right. Removing all of this dirt, all of these unwanted attachments which are becoming hindrances to my devotional process. Okay. Then once this dirt is slowly being removed, you will realize that, wow, I'm becoming more and more steady in my devotional service. And therefore, it's called nishta. As I become more and more steady in my devotional service with all of these anarthas removed, wow, we get more and more taste to do more and more. And therefore, it will reach a stage where you will feel, why am I just hankering for 16 rounds? I can do much more than 16 rounds. Okay? So that ruchi happens, that taste happens. Okay? With that steadiness and that increase in taste, you become so attached to this, you become detached from the material. And then it produces that bhava, or that spontaneous love for the Lord. Okay, and finally it becomes pure love for Krishna. All right, so all of this is very nicely explained in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Okay, it's a very, very, very difficult book to actually read. Right, there are certain chapters which are easier to understand. You know, if you are really keen, you can either go to that book, or you can start off by reading Vishwanath Chakravarti's book called Madhurya Kadambini. Right? So these are the 9 stages of Bhakti Yoga. Right? You can see over here. Right? It starts with Shraddha, or that awakening of that faith in the heart. I remember when we were teaching this in class, Ankur Prabhu, you took down a lot of notes. You were like, in deep realization of this topic, right? You were looking on your mobile phone because that picture was sent to all of you all, this particular picture, and you were like, in deep thought of that. Okay, so these are the 9 processes. The awakening of faith, right? And then sadhu sangha. And then you can read the rest. Okay, the 4 types of sins, okay, which can destroy our bhakti, and the auspiciousness which is produced when we engage in sadhu sangha, when we have faith, we become very, very kind, we become very, very merciful. All right, we begin to, whenever people make us angry, etc., we become, we tend to forgive easily. We become very, very truthful. We become simple. All right, we become equal to everyone. We become very dairya, very, very patient. Okay, and then, we become very gambhir. All right, full of gravity. Gravity is not just the weight. We become very serious. And then we honor others. At the same time, we don't expect respect from others. Okay, and therefore what's happening is sarva saubhagya will happen, all good fortune will happen. Okay, so I've already shared this with all of you. Go back to this, and then bhajan kriya, anartha nivriti, and then nishta, ruchi, asakti. Okay, so if you want, I can send this again to you. Anuj Prabhu, just remind me, and then I can send this again to you. All right, to all of you. Okay, so these are the 9 stages of bhakti. Any questions? Ankur Prabhu, do you remember? Ankur Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes.
You were right. So it was very initial stage, right? So I was observing it very clearly.
Okay.
And when you were talking about this again, I still feel right that we will remain to the level 1 or level somewhere between level 0 and level 1 for quite a number of years. That's the thing.
But you know what's the good news?
Yeah.
The good news is it has started.
Yes.
That's the good news. The good news is you have that Shraddha.
Yes.
The good news is you were born in a Hindu family, in a Sanatan Dharma family. The good news is our parents have brought us to the temple for association since a young age.
True, true.
You know, now just take a step back and look at the Western devotees who had nothing, no such fortune as what we had. You know, they were born in sort of, you know, what kind of association they had from a young age, right? But just by the association of a pure devotee, that Shraddha could be enlivened in their hearts. Okay? So it's important for us to see how fortunate actually we are. We don't have to start the process from ground zero. It's already there. We just need to live it. Okay? So now Kapila Muni is born in Satya Yuga, the lotus-eyed Supreme Personality of Godhead, being pleased with Kardama Muni, showed himself to Kardama Muni and displayed his transcendental form, which can be understood only through the Vedas. Okay? And then, you know, so this part I'm not very, very sure, like how the Lord appeared. Did the Lord appear as a baby and then grew up? Or maybe the Lord just appeared as a, you know, as a child. Like if you look at Sukadev Goswami, he appeared as a 12 to 16-year-old boy, all right, to Vyasadev. So, you know, maybe Kapila Muni also appeared, okay, not as a small child, but appeared as a you know, maybe a bigger boy, all right. So Kardama Muni is explaining, or he's in so much of ecstasy. He's telling his son, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that your lotus feet are the true vessels to take one across the ocean of mundane nescience. All right. Only persons who are deprived of this intelligence because of this deluding energy of Maya will worship those feet with a view to attain the trivial and momentary pleasures of the senses. Okay, all of us are in that, but it's okay. All right, because of Maya, we are always asking the Lord for something material, which is fine. No worries at all. Slowly, we will become purified. Okay. Then he says, however, O my Lord, you are so kind that you bestow mercy even upon those who are asking for this. You see, the Lord is so kind. Okay, but we need to understand what is the final goal. Okay, we need to understand what's the final goal. And a lot of people, all right, advanced devotees, they started off like all of us. And then slowly, then material desires started to vanquish. Right? My dear Lord, although it is not your desire, okay, this is so interesting. Although this is not your desire, you manifested this creation of gross and subtle elements. Why? Just for our sensual satisfaction. So Kardama Muni is explaining, you know, the reason why I am here, the reason why the universe is here, the reason why the material nature is here, these 24 elements, is because we wanted it for our sensual satisfaction. Yesterday in my class, I was explaining this. And then one of the Matajis told me, yeah, but we have not enjoyed enough, you know. So how? We have not enjoyed enough. I say, yeah, then you keep on enjoying. Right? That's our nature. We'll just, right? So let your causeless mercy be upon us, for you have appeared before us in your eternal form, adorned with a splendid wreath of tulsi leaves. Okay, so the Lord appeared with, you know, a nice garland of tulsi leaves. And Srila Prabhupada writes this purport. It's clearly stated that the material world is not created by the personal will of the Supreme Lord. It is created by his external energy because the living entities want to enjoy it. The material world is not created for those who do not want to enjoy sense gratification, who constantly remain in transcendental loving service, and who are eternally Krishna conscious. So you see, this is a very important sentence in the purport. The material world is not created for those who do not want to enjoy sense gratification, who constantly remain in transcendental loving service, and who are eternally Krishna conscious. So you see some of the pure devotees like, Srila Prabhupada, his Guru Maharaj, etc. Right? They came to this material world despite them not having this, this inclination to enjoy. But they came because they had to serve the Lord, because they had to redeem us. Right? So it's not that they wanted to also, they are not like us. They come in as our spiritual masters to bring us back. They are empowered personalities from the Lord. So Krishna is so kind that he allows the sense-enjoying living entities a separate world created by him to enjoy as they like, yet at the same time he appears in his personal form or as an empowered living entity. The Lord unwillingly creates this material world, but he descends in his personal form or sends one of his reliable sons or a servant or a reliable author like Vyasadeva to give instructions. Okay? So this is a very, very important point that, it's like a big sacrifice done by these personalities. They are all supposed to be in the spiritual world, but they take this hardship because of us. Any reflections, any realizations? Anyone likes to share something? One person.
Nice share.
Yes.
Here, Prabhupada writes about reliable son. Is he referring to Jesus Christ, and for servant, is he referring to Muhammad, saying that all religions are started by the God, but people take it differently and realize it differently?
Yes. Yeah. So it's not necessarily just one, right? So the Christians believe that, some Christians believe that Jesus Christ is the only way to the Lord and there's no other way, So we believe the Lord cannot be, he's so magnanimous. He has so many children who are empowered living entities, right? Maybe Muhammad is one of them. Jesus Christ is one of them, as what Prabhupada writes. But there are so many other gurus. There are so many other sons of the Lord. They come at different times, depending on time, place, and circumstance, right? But then, as Kali Yuga progresses further and further, whatever teachings which they have construed or which they have come up with, what is going to happen is people take it differently. People will concoct different, different purports to those, and they will start practicing in varied ways. So much so that these teachings, they themselves become, they become infused by the three modes of material nature. Therefore, a religion, okay, or devotional service, which is somehow infused or, affected by the modes of ignorance, will see other religions as wrong. All right? Because the practice is in the mode of ignorance. All right? And that's where you'll have, just because your faith is different from mine, right? They feel that this is wrong and they need to be killed. All right? And that's why you have, these jihads, etc., coming into the picture. They claim to be, following the true religion, but that is religion in the mode of ignorance. Right?
So here, Prabhuji, as you said, the faith is different. So it starts again with our Bhakti Lata, with Shraddha.
Yeah.
That yes, of course, they did not get the association of the correct devotees.
Yeah.
And even they didn't realize the correct path. So that's why they have the faith which they think is correct.
Yeah. Because what happens is, you know, if this practitioners, okay, who are practicing religion in the mode of ignorance, all right, or devotion in the mode of ignorance, right? If they are doing it the right way, if it was in pure goodness or Shuddh Sattva, then all of this would be coming in. All right, one becomes very, very kind and merciful. He becomes a para dukha dukhi. All right, he becomes very, very forgiveful. He's full of forgiveness. All right, he has got patience. He's honoring others and not expecting honor. The fact that people are not tolerant tells you that something is wrong. All right, that means that the practice is tainted with the three modes of material nature. Right? You see,
but sadly, everyone actually thinks that what they're doing is correct, and what their practice is, that is the correct way. Sadly, everyone thinks that their practice is the best, actually. So
yeah, that's true. That's because that's how Maya will act, will provide a cloud. All right. So we learned in chapter number 14 of the Bhagavad Gita that from Bhagavan, right, the energy of the Bhagavan is Maya, or the three modes of material nature. These three modes of material nature, although it is the same energy which is appearing from the Lord, it also acts like a cloud, all right, which blocks us from seeing the Lord and which blocks us and allows us to come up with our own concocted versions. All right? And therefore, we feel that we are the only one right. But someone who is advanced, like Bhakti Vinod Thakur, what does Bhakti Vinod Thakur says? Right? Bhakti Vinod Thakur is the guru of Srila Prabhupada's. He's the father of Srila Prabhupada's guru, right? Bhakti Vinod Thakur. And he says that, my Supreme Lord is so marvelous. He's so wonderful that he can be worshipped in so many ways. When I go to a church, I see that the same Lord can be worshipped in this way. When I go to a mosque, I see that same Lord can be worshipped in this way. And when I go to a temple, and I can actually see that, wow, the same Lord can be worshipped in this way. All right. So we become so broad-minded. All right. In the true religion, we realize that these are all different gradations of the same one path towards the Lord. Right? And each path is due to time, place, and circumstance. All right, so continuing, Prabhupada's purport to text number 31, the Lord speaks to Kardama Muni. Showing compassion to all living entities, you will attain self-realization. Giving assurance of safety to all, you will perceive your own self as well as all the universes in me and myself in you. You just see how high order this is, right? Where Kapila Dev is, the Lord himself is explaining to Kardama Muni, right? Once you have become a pure devotee of the Lord, once you have advanced, you will realize that, wow, you are in me, right? And all the universes are in me. And you will have compassion to all living entities. You see, so coming to your same point, Prabhu, that how compassionate are we to others? Right? Compassion simply means understanding, understanding their background, where they are coming from. And that's the reason why they are behaving in a certain way. That's the reason why they are following a certain philosophy. That is the real meaning of compassion. All right? Beginning with the why. It is also said that a person who goes to the temple of the Lord and worships with great devotion, but who does not show sympathy to people in general or show respect to other devotees is considered to be a third-class devotee. You see, Anush Prabhu, this text is answering your question. The second-class devotee is he who is merciful and compassionate to the fallen soul. Okay. The third class is essentially just going to the temple, worshipping the Lord, but don't care a damn about the others. Right? The second class is merciful and compassion to the fallen soul also. That's the second class. All right. The second class devotee is always cognizant of his position as an eternal servant of the Lord. And he therefore makes friendships with devotees of the Lord. He acts compassionately towards the general public in teaching them devotional service and refuses to cooperate or associate with non-devotees. All right. So that's the second class. As long as one is not compassionate to people in general in the devotional service to the Lord, he's a third-class devotee. But who is a first class? A first-class devotee gives assurance to every living being that there is no fear of the material existence. Let us live in Krishna consciousness and conquer the nations of material existence. That is why Srila Prabhupada, where did Srila Prabhupada go? You know, he could have just been contented living in Vrindavan, all right, at the age of 65, right? 67, 68, you know, he could have just continued in Vrindavan. Why does he want to go to New York? Going to New York, that's the first time he's seeing snow and he's wondering what is happening over here. So cold weather, right? And where does he stay? He stays in the worst colony in New York, all right, which was full of drug addicts who were like perpetually high. You know, he had nowhere else to go, no money. He only had 40 rupees with him when he went to India. And Srimad Bhagavatam brought him to US. Sorry, not India, to US. He didn't say, I'm bringing Srimad Bhagavatam. He says Srimad Bhagavatam is going to the US and I'm accompanying in serving them. Okay. So, you know, you can see how much of compassion he as a first-class devotee, as an empowered living entity had. That's the first class. Right? If you read, you know, the biography of Srila Prabhupada, you will see that, you know, even the worst drug addicts, they become great devotees of the Supreme Lord. There was one of them, you know, who was like perpetually high. In France, when Prabhupada was going on a walk, all right, when his disciples and this 19-year-old boy, totally drunk, dirty, he went and ran towards Srila Prabhupada's feet and he held on to Prabhupada's feet and said, please save me, please save me. And then, you know, the devotees took him away. And then Prabhupada said, never mind, let him, you know, I just want to let him, you know, just, yeah, don't chase him away. And then Prabhupada continued with his walk and went to the temple, and he realized that this same 19-year-old drunk boy, high on drugs, dirtily clad, he was there waiting in the temple for Prabhupada. And again, he ran towards Prabhupada's feet and held on and he said, please save me. And then Prabhupada said, okay. He got the devotees to, you know, clean him up, dress him in nice dhoti, kurta with tilak. And then Prabhupada said, just give him prasadam every day and don't ask him to do anything. Just ask him to sit down and chant and chant and chant. Right? So every day his work was just to have prasadam and just chant and chant and chant. And you know what happened to him? Right? He became the best translator, all right, of all the scriptures from Sanskrit to English. From Bengali, all the Goswami books were translated into English. Right? And he died in Vrindavan. That is the mercy of a first-class devotee. He gives chance to everyone, right? If, let's say, Prabhupada had not given chance to this person, at 19, he was like totally high on drugs. At 20, he would have died. But because of that costless mercy of Srila Prabhupada, to give him a second chance, all right, this person became an amazing devotee and then took up the mission of translating all of the scriptures into English so that we could actually continue in our devotional service. Right? So we never know. We never know. That's the power of faith. So with that, we come towards the end of today's class. Any questions? Malti, I like your profile picture.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yes. Is this Radharani or Krishna? Oh, it's an AI image. Venkataraman Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
How-
Prabhu.
Yes, Venkataraman Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, just a doubt, Prabhu. So as you were explaining, right, Prabhu, about the even Anuj Prabhu, you were asking about how he brings back the thoughts to do the sincere chanting part, right? So even though we do that, the consistency, maintaining that consistency, right, Prabhu? I understand we are in the beginning stage of bhakti, but in that also there should be some consistency. So how do we measure or go about that consistency? Okay, I'm progressing to, like today I did 8 rounds or not 8 rounds or 4 rounds with proper attention. And should I quantitatively have that measurement to understand my improvement in bhakti, or how should I go about it?
Okay, I may not be the right person to answer this question, but it's a very important question. I would like the floor to answer the question. Okay, and then I will add. Renuka, are you still there?
Yes.
Okay, so what do you think of what Prabhu has asked?
Okay, Prabhu actually wants to measure how much he has progressed in chanting.
Okay.
So I think it's you count how much you have progressed by actually becoming detached to the material things. As you progress in chanting, you will be more detached to the material things. That's how you measure. I feel that's how we measure our progress in devotional service.
Okay, very nice. Yeah, so Renuka, I think, made a very, very important point, which is essentially, it is not just quantity is important, all right, but with quantity, try to also see if we can increase the quality of our rounds, right? So for example, for me, it's very difficult to sit down and chant my rounds, right? And therefore, I like to walk about. But then I know that when I walk about, there's a higher degree of distraction. There's a higher degree that I'm not meditating on the Supreme Lord, but I'm just hearing, right? So therefore, my goal is to increase the quantity. Maybe just sitting down, ensuring that I have a right, upright position, and then deliberately sitting down and chanting it, right? Visualizing the Lord while I'm chanting, right? So that's one way to ensure it's not just the quantity, but also the quality, all right? Reading, that's another way. So the point which Renuka is discussing is so important because, right, there must be a barometer. There must be a barometer of our progress. How do you measure the progress? The measuring of the progress is by slowly detachment. You will realize that, wow, the Lord is giving me everything. Can I simplify my life in some way where I have a little bit more time for the Lord? Okay, so those are all barometers, right? So Shalini Mataji is not here, but she remembers this verse from Bhagavatam where Krishna explains that, Sukadev Goswami explains that when we get into bhakti, it is like a hungry man who is so hungry, right? When you give him food, what happens? Firstly, it quenches his hunger. All right. He becomes satisfied. And secondly, he feels nourished. Right. And thirdly, because he's full and he's nourished, that hunger is no longer there anymore. Okay. So that's a wonderful analogy. When we are in devotion, okay, as we progress, we will realize that this hunger is slowly being subsided. This hunger for the material is slowly being subsided because devotion is giving me that fulfillment, that fulfillment, that nourishment, right? Just look at Parikshit Maharaj, right? Why did Parikshit Maharaj become so angry and put a dead snake around the rishi? All right, because he felt, I'm a king, I'm hungry, right? I'm the king of the universe, I'm the emperor of the universe, and I'm going into this hermitage and I'm not shown any respect, and no one is giving me even a drink or asking me for a seat, etc. All right. So he was hungry for that respect, for that water, for that drink. And as he heard more and more of Hari Katha from Sukadev Goswami, even his material hunger, his thirst, which had caused him this curse, all of that was dying off. Okay, so very good point, Chef Ali. Renuka Mataji. Anybody else, would like to add to Venkat Raman Prabhu? So it's not just quantity is very important, Prabhu. We need to progress. All right, increase in the numbers. Yes, that's important. Today you are reading one chapter. Tomorrow not tomorrow, but in a few years' time, try to read more chapters. Today we are just doing Mangalarti. In a few weeks' time, in a few months' time, try to do Mangalarti plus chanting. Chanting should already be there, plus maybe serving a little bit more. But the most important is we need an accountability partner. That accountability partner comes in the form of association. All right. When we associate with the right-minded devotees, what is going to happen is they will nourish us and they are able to carry us up. Today, most of you are attending the session via Zoom, but I'm like pleading to all of you that make it a point to physically go to the temple, speak to the devotees, ask questions in those classes, etc. Otherwise it's not going to help you. Why do I, okay, not me, but why do devotees make it a point to, to travel to the dhams, to go and meet their spiritual master, it is because all these small episodes, like what Ravindra Prabhu says, in Atomic Habits, you heard, right? Each of these reinforces, and it allows us to, better our devotional service. So association is very important, Prabhu. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, Venkat Raman.
Thank you, bro. Thank you.
So early in the morning from Chennai.
No problem. Anytime, bro. Do Mangalati at home. So
okay,
it become a practice, but the only challenge being the consistency.
Yeah.
How much involved we are, and it goes ups and downs depending on other factors. So that is something that we're trying to catch up. Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Prabhu. So I think it's also important for us to realize that we are not perfected human beings. All right. There will be days when we are not, right? So for example, Monday to Friday, I've been waking up very early. Yesterday, Saturday, I told my wife, let me sleep a bit extra. So instead of waking up at 5:30, I woke up at 7+. So do I say, oh, that's wrong? Once a while, it's okay. We need to be regulated. We need to be real to ourselves. And once a while, it's expected, Prabhu. We cannot be very, very harsh on ourselves also. Harsh on ourselves, saying that, oh, I should not have done it. Yeah, maybe there's another school which thinks about, we should be 100% determined, but while I can say slow and steady wins the race, At the same time, we have also seen a lot of people who suddenly became very, 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 very enthusiastic, and then the enthusiasm also dies off.
Yeah.
So yeah, take a nice measured approach towards devotional service. Very important is we must enjoy the process, Prabhu. Enjoy the process. But if we don't do anything tangible, then it's going to be tough, Prabhu. Tangible meanings, just reading and coming to a class like this is like jnana yoga. All right, it becomes dry. Dry. We need to do actual service. Actual service. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Any other questions? No questions. Everyone is so self-realized. Lalita Mataji, any questions? You must be getting ready in a few months, a few weeks, 2 months' time to go on your yatra.
No questions. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the yatra.
Okay.
Very much.
When I started this question about yatra, so many of you were saying, yes, 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 I want to go, I want to go, I want to go. In the end, I'm organizing this yatra and only Lalita Mataji is coming.
Oh dear, the rest not coming.
No one else is coming. No one else.
It's really very interesting, and you
Yeah,
really
so
learn
next year
from this
onwards,
yatra.
next year I'm
And
not
it
going to be
recharges
organizing.
us completely.
Yeah. Next year I
For
will
those who are
not.
listening, let me tell you, these yatras are really amazing. It really recharges you, whatever you've learned for the 1-2 years. You get recharged and you learn a lot more and you come back a totally different person.
Thanks. Thanks for being an advocate, right? So, Shamugam Prabhu, right? So, Shamugam Prabhu, right now, as we speak, he is in Dwarka. All right. So, he has gone with another group to Dwarka, where he's going to the place where the gopis, when Krishna was leaving the gopis, all of them jumped into this well, and, their bodies is what we are wearing today as the Gopi Chandan. He's going there. He's going to Somnath. He's going to Bet Dwarka. He's going to Dwarka, with a huge group of devotees. Each of them will, help each other. Right. So
tomorrow I'll be joining him. Day after tomorrow.
Oh, you're also joining. Wonderful.
We are all in that same group that you are referring to, bro.
Okay, so I'm going to spotlight you for everyone. Tell us what is the entire program all about?
Yes, Prabhu. Like he already went. He started early with fellow devotees from Singapore, but we from Chennai and the rest of Tamil Nadu will be joining him on Thursday. 26th is our yatra that is starting. So that's a plan, Prabhu. As you already covered, I think Bet Dwaraka, and then for each days, couple of days in Dwaraka, and then couple of days in Somnath, and then we'll be returning back, Prabhu. We'll cover that Jambavan cave as well, which you have missed out. And on the way to that, we'll do the from Dwaraka to this one, whatever is there, like Jambavan cave and other location which I forgot. We'll cover those and then go to Somnath and then cover for 4 days, Prabhu. That's the plan overall.
Very nice. Nice, yeah. So Lalita,
So here, this association.
Carry on, Prabhu.
Yeah, sorry. So this is something that we do on a quarterly basis, kind of. This group, we call it as Tamil Gita here. So Murli Sham Prabhuji is the one who's taking us to all these places. So at least we make sure every quarter we visit some place or other to recharge ourselves. As you rightly said, like that acts as a best place. Here also we do the classes in Zoom, but at the same time, the physical direct face-to-face interaction and the service to devotees, fellow devotees. So that being the primary motto here for this class, for this yatras, as well as to recharge ourselves by hearing about Lord more, and then take it forward from there on to improve ourselves. So that's the whole motto. So we used to go from Mayapur, Vrindavan. So far we have covered Mayapur, Vrindavan a couple of times in a year, and now this is the first time that we are to Dwaraka, close to 800 to 800 devotees will be traveling with us this
Wow.
time. And for
800
Vrindavan,
devotees.
yes,
Woo.
Prabhu. And for Vrindavan, once
And
we
I'm
did that,
struggling. I'm struggling to get two.
Yeah. For Vrindavan, once we went up to 1,000 plus in 3 batches. That is something that we did the last year. Last to last year.
Okay.
And Mayapur we did for close to 1,000 this time. That is during after I returned from Singapore. We did that Mayapur Yatra as well. So it's been a year now. So I left from Singapore.
Okay,
So
very
it was,
nice. Nice, yeah. So, is it all in Tamil?
no problem. I mean, basically the core thing that was happening was Tamil. Actually, the classes happens in Tamil. Actually,
Okay.
It's more of a logical grouping that we do because not based specifically on language. Anyone from different walks of life will join us, but things predominantly happen in Tamil, like because the Prabhujis who are joining us to guide us in each place or location. So how we do is like, which I forgot to tell you is like we have the prerequisites, right? Like we prepare ourselves right before 2 weeks or 3 weeks. We'll start. He will put together all the content in one place. We have our own web portal where he will put everything in Tamil because people from different walks of life needs to be understanding the purpose of the yatra, right? So that will have all the significance listed out there, saying what is the importance about the place, who was involved in those particular place and location, and what exactly had happened, how Krishna was, what is the Leela that is associated in that place, so that you are well prepared when you visit there in person. You will get to know. And you will relish the importance of that place, right? Rather than just going and understanding in that place at that moment, rather you have the mindset prepared even before you start for yatra. All these items will be listed out very clearly, like what is the significance and what's the leela. So you go and relish it and spend more time in exploring that place furthermore. So that is something that you do in Tamil actually. Other than that, the regular classes will be also in Tamil. So
Very
that
nice.
is something that just for
very good. Yeah.
On a common platform, he tried to bring it out on the common platform.
Sure.
He does it on the full-time.
Thank you, Prabhu. So Lalita Mataji, don't worry, okay? Renuka and I are there, and of course, there are 3. There are 3 Chinese Matajis coming along. Okay, very senior Chinese Mataji devotees, and then 1 Muslim girl who became a devotee, and then I've got my wife and my mother. So we will all be supporting you on the yatra. Don't worry.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. We will be in Govardhan Eco Village, Prabhuji, Venkatraman Prabhu.
Oh, great!
Govardhan Eco Village for 3 days. And then we will be in Bombay for a day, and then Krishna Wheeling we will be in Ayodhya, and then from Ayodhya we will go to Haridwar, the place where Sukadev Goswami spoke the Bhagavatam, and then we will go to Rishikesh, and from Rishikesh we will go all the way up to the pastimes of Lord Ram, and then from there we will return back. So it's not a very long trip, but yeah, it's nice. Okay, and by the way, Karthik starts on the 18th, right? 17th or 18th of October. Right, so that's the time where every day we will be going deeper into the pastimes of the Lord as Lord Damodar. All right. Sorry, I took 10 extra minutes, but thank you very much, Venkatraman, for sharing what you
Thanks for the opportunity.
Really nice. Granth-Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai.
Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.